Today, we are going to talk about the hero Koreans love most, Lee Sun-shin. Have you ever seen a Korean coin? The 101 coin. The face engraved on it is this man. In Korea, his name lives on everywhere. Schools, streets, bridges, even warships, all dedicated in his honor. And if you visit Gwanghwamun Square in Seoul, you will find this magnificent statue standing right in the heart of the city. 23 battles, 23 victories. A man who never lost, not once. Korea's greatest hero. This is his story. One down in April of 1592. Hundreds of ships appeared off the coast of Busan. Inside them were 160,000 Japanese soldiers. They were the elite forces of a newly unified Japan, men who had spent the last 100 years doing nothing but fighting wars. In other words, one of the most battle-hardened armies in the world at the time. And they were headed for Korea. But how did it come to this? Let's rewind a little. In the late 16th century, one man unified Japan, Toyotomi Hideyoshi. He rose from peasant origins to become the most powerful man in Japan, a true rags to riches story. But unifying Japan wasn't enough for him. His real ambition lay across the sea in Ming China. The problem was to get from Japan to China, you have to cross the Korean peninsula. So he sent a demand to Korea, lend me a path through your land. From Korea's perspective, this demand was outrageous. Ming China was Korea's long-standing ally. Handing Japan a road through Korea would mean betraying that alliance. And honestly, Korea didn't really believe Japan would actually invade. They thought it was just a diplomatic threat, saber-rattling. So Korea refused. The truth is, Korea at this time was in no shape to fight a war. The royal court was torn apart by political factions. The military had grown soft after generations of peace. Weapons weren't maintained, troops weren't trained. Korea said no, but they didn't prepare for what came next. On April 13, 1592, the Japanese fleet appeared off the coast of Busan. This was the beginning of one of the most devastating wars in Korean history, the Imjin War. The speed of the Japanese advance was staggering. Busan, Daegu, Cheongju, Hanyang. The capital modern-day Seoul fell in just 20 days. Against 160,000 elite Japanese soldiers, and unprepared Korea had no chance. So what did the Korean king, King Seonjo, do? He abandoned the capital, he fled north. The king ran, leaving his people behind. Wherever the Japanese army went, they pillaged and burned. Civilians were killed, others were dragged off as slaves. From this day on, for the next 7 years, the Korean peninsula would descend into hell. Everything was collapsing, everything except one place, the sea. Because at sea, one man was writing a completely different story. His name was Lee Sun-shin. His title was Jeolla Jasusa, the naval commander in charge of defending the western half of Jeolla province on Korea's southwestern coast. In other words, he was the man responsible for one specific stretch of the Korean coastline. Not the whole navy, just one region. While other regional fleets were caught off guard and crushed by the Japanese surprise attack, Lee Sun-shin was different. He was ready. Even before the war began, he had anticipated a Japanese invasion. He repaired warships, he drilled his men, he stockpiled weapons. While everyone else had grown comfortable with peace, this one man was preparing for war. And among the weapons he developed, there was the Gobuksan, the turtle ship, an armored warship shaped like a turtle. Iron plating covering its back, spikes embedded in that plating, so that any enemy who tried to board would be impaled, and cannons firing in every direction. one of the earliest ironclad warships in human history, invented in the mind of a single Korean admiral. If you have seen any Korean historical drama, you've probably seen the turtle ship. Yes, it's real. It actually existed. Starting in May of 1592, Lee Sun-shin began his campaign. Battle of Okpo, 26 Japanese ships destroyed. Battle of Sacheon, 13 ships destroyed. The first time the turtle ship saw real combat. Battle of Dangpo, 21 ships destroyed. And then the Battle of Hansan-do. We will get to that one in just a moment. While the Korean army was losing every land battle, the Korean Navy was winning every single naval battle without losing a single ship. Lee Sun-shin's fleet was sealing off the supply lines of the Japanese Navy completely. So, who do you think was the happiest person about all this? That's right, King Seonjo, the Korean king. He had run away, but one of his subjects was holding the country together at sea. Thanks to Lee Sun-shin's victories, the Korean military finally had room to breathe, and the king himself could finally relax a little. And what about the Japanese side? Toyotomi Hideyoshi was furious. His perfect invasion plan was being unraveled by a single Korean admiral. If supply lines were cut, the Japanese forces already on Korean soil would starve. Which meant if they couldn't defeat Lee Sun-shin, they couldn't win the war, period. So Hideyoshi sent his elite naval forces south, crushed Lee Sun-shin, secured the supply route. And what happened next became one of the most legendary naval battles in human history. July 8, 1592, the waters of Hansan Island. The day before the battle, around 70 Japanese warships gathered at one location, a strait between Geoje Island and Goseong, called Gyeonnaeryang. Now, here's the thing about Gyeonnaeryang, it's narrow, really narrow. The channel is tight, full of underwater rocks, and ships could easily collide with each other in the chaos of battle. For Lee Sun-shin, fighting inside the strait was a nightmare scenario. You can't maneuver large cannons. If your formation gets blocked, your own fleet is in danger. So, what did he do? He set a trap. He sent 5 or 6 ships forward bait. They sailed off to the Japanese fleet, taunted them, and then turned around and run. But not just anywhere. They run toward the open waters of Hansan Island. The Japanese took the bait. The Koreans are running scared. Chase them down. And so over 70 Japanese warships poured out of the narrow strait into the wide open sea of Hansan Island. And the moment they did, Lee Sun-shin's real plan began. The crane wing formation. A formation shaped like a crane spreading its wings. Korean warships hidden behind the islands on either side suddenly appeared. They split into 3 divisions and curved around the Japanese fleet, surrounding them in a wide arc, like a crane closing its wings around its prey. And the genius of this formation is that every single Korean ship can simultaneously fire its cannons directly at the enemy. The Japanese had nowhere to go. Cannon fire from the left, cannon fire from the right, cannon fire from the front. 59 Japanese warships were destroyed, barely able to fire back. And just 3 days later, at Angkor, Lee Sun-shin destroyed over 100 more Japanese ships. Let me say that again. In 3 days, over 100 Japanese warships gone. This wasn't just a victory. The crane ring formation only works if every single ship is in the right place at the right time, moving in perfect coordination. One ship out of position and your formation collapses. Your own fleet starts firing on itself, which means For this maneuver to succeed, the Korean Navy had to be trained to a level of absolute precision. And Lee Sun-shin's command had to be superhuman. And so-command battles like this are extremely rare in world naval history. The British Royal Navy, the US Naval Academy, they still study the crane wing formation today. After Hansando, Toyotomi Hideyoshi issued a shocking order to his entire navy. Do not engage Lee Sun-shin in naval combat. A naval combat ban. The most powerful man in Japan telling his own fleet to stop fighting. One Korean admiral had just rewritten Japan's entire wartime strategy. After Hansando and the string of victories that followed, Lee Sun-shin became Korea's national hero. Even King Seonjo had to acknowledge him. In 1593, Lee Sun-shin was promoted to 삼도수군 통제사. His old title, 전라좌수사, only gave him command of one province's fleet, but 삼도수군 통제사 gave him command of the navies of 3 provinces, 전라, 충청, and 경상. In other words, he had just become the commander-in-chief of the entire Korean Navy. The tide of the war was turning toward Korea. Ming China sent reinforcements, civilian militias rose up across the country, and Lee Sun-shin held the seas. In 1593, just 1 year into the war, Korea recaptured its lost capital, Hanyang. And then came a long, slow ceasefire. Negotiations dragged on between Japan, Korea, and Ming China. The fighting paused. Diplomacy began. This ceasefire would last about 4 years. But no one knew it yet. Those peaceful years would become the most dangerous time of Lee Sun-shin's life. Because the moment the war stopped, the politicians at court suddenly had a lot of free time. Time to start whispering. What waited for Lee Sun-shin after the glory of Hansando was a different kind of trial entirely. The thing that would break him most deeply was not the Japanese army. It was the country he had risked his life to protect. If you want to hear what happened next, please subscribe.